drives you? What inspires you? Let's ignite your why. Welcome back to Ignite Your Why podcast. I'm your host, Austin T. Gullett, and we're here to have genuine conversations with authentic people to help amplify their voice and figure out what ignites their why. Today's guest was born and raised in South Carolina. Currently, he's working as a third grade teacher and also as a content creator. On top of all of that, he is also a worship leader as well. With all that being said, let's give a warm welcome to Ty Dillard. Ty, how you doing today?
I'm good, bro. How are you?
Oh, I am exhausted. Like, emphasize on the exhausted part. Like, I woke up this morning. Well, it was a long week, and I totally forgot that there was a soccer camp that I had to work this morning with U.S. Soccer and Nike. So I got a text from my boss at like 7:30 in the morning, and obviously I was sleeping. And I woke up around 9 when it started, and he's like, "Are you still coming?" And I was like, "Ah!" Brushed the teeth really quick, and I was out the door. But we made it work. So let's just hop straight into this, man. So what is your story?
So I was born. Well, first off, my name is Tyler, but I go by Ty. I was born and raised in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I did had the privilege to have both of my parents in my life. I've always been a weird person. I've been a I've always been a weirdo. It has set me up for success in every way possible. But growing up, I was considered the weird sibling, the weird friend, the weird child. And then to add on to that, I was the middle child, so everybody had rules because of me. But yeah, most of my childhood I cannot remember, and I don't know why. But what I do remember, I had a very great upbringing. Brought up in church, brought up with family-oriented things. Had a strong connection with my family, friends, and all of that. So my upbringing is pretty solid.
So my question for you, you say you were the weird kid and the weird child. What do you think is weird?
What I think is weird, pretty much not fitting in, I would say. Everybody do things the normal way. I want to see what's the craziest way that we can make this happen. I don't know. I still to this day don't feel like I fit in with my family. I don't fit in with my friends. Like I don't know. I've always been like Tyler. It's Tyler, and then there's everybody else. Like always.
I feel like we can change that verbiage though. I don't want to say like the weird child. Let's just say you were different.
I was different. And I've actually heard that.
But I think like when you think of like, I guess like everyone thinks of weird differently. Like when I think of a weird, I'm not going to say it because it sounds bad. I'm going to stop myself. I'm not getting canceled.
Please don't.
No, I'm just saying like everyone perceives that word a lot differently. And it's interesting because I've had someone on this podcast before, and they said they were the middle child, and they always felt like they were the forgotten one. Is that a true statement? Because I'm the baby, so I don't really know.
You're the spoiled brat. Yeah. So middle child syndrome is you grow out of it eventually, but growing up, definitely I felt like I was the middle child. Well, had the middle child syndrome. And it's kind of funny how that works because, like I said, I had a very good upbringing, but at the same time, there was also this part of me that was like, everybody else gets the long end. I always get the short end of the stick, or I always got to get the hand-me-downs and the wrath, the fire, and everybody else gets the praise and like all of this other stuff. So it was definitely like middle child syndrome. Like I'm on an island by myself, but yeah.
Hey, I had hand-me-downs as a kid as well. I was the younger sibling. Me and my brother are 3 years apart. It's just us two, so I can relate to you in that sense.
Yeah.
But I've always wondered what it was like to have like a younger sibling, but my mom and dad were just like, we're done.
Yeah.
So I'm curious of just like your whole story because you mentioned growing up in the church and obviously you're an educator now and things of that nature. So I'm kind of interested to see how this all came about. So
Yeah.
I want to ask you this. So what
Okay.
is it that truly inspires you, but more importantly, what is it that ignites your why?
What ignites my why? I would have to say it's my passion. Um, Passion for teaching and my passion for worship leading, but most importantly, God, of course. But to start with teaching,
Hmm.
it's crazy because as a kid, I hated school. Um, I was never anything above a C average, honestly, and
Hmm.
sometimes it was D and F average. To be completely honest. So how I became an educator, how I fell in love with teaching, I don't even know. But just my passion is what ignites my why. I started back in 2018 as a kids club or boys and girls club, youth
Hmm.
development professional. And my first day in, I was like, this might be something I want to do. Now, at the time, I had just graduated high school. Did not. I was working at a supermarket, Food Lion, and couldn't nobody get me kind of work. I laid out of work. Like I did not know what I wanted to do with my life.
That's
So
normal though. That is
it
normal
is.
for someone outside of high school. And I think it's absolutely insane that people expect an 18-year-old or sometimes they're 17 to know
Yeah,
exactly what they want to do for the rest of their life.
it
Blows my
is.
mind.
It was hard because like everybody's going to college, everybody's going this and there. College was not on my mind. It
Hmm.
wasn't. I was trying to figure out what do I want to do because if I go to college, what am I going for? Like, what am I going to be in debt for if I'm actually going to choose to go to college? But I started working with the Boys and Girls Club in 2018, and I fell in love with it. Started working with kids, loved it, which was, I mean, it was strange, but it wasn't strange because I've always been a leader.
Hmm.
Um, People have always been just naturally drawn, naturally attracted to my energy, my vibe, and I've always just been a natural born leader. So just walking in and leading the kids, it was like, oh, this comes easy. But it was a passion. It was something I saw myself doing for the rest of my life. So I've been doing that. After that, I started networking and I found myself like inside of the actual school system.
Hmm.
And people always want to know, how did you start? It started in the Boys and Girls Club, which by the way, if you are an aspiring teacher, my recommendation is to start in the after school program. Whatever you do, start in the after school program because you will see the best side of the kids and the worst side of the kids because it
That
is
is
the
100% true.
it is the end of the day, and you are having to balance getting homework
Hmm.
done and also being able to incorporate fun. So that's
Yeah.
that's a teacher tip for anybody
Hey,
that's wanting to be a teacher.
I did it for 4 years working at an
Really?
after school program.
Yeah.
Yes. So I worked there starting in 2014 all the way to 2018 to when I graduated college. And it's funny that you're saying that because like this is what told me that like I don't want to be a teacher. But then again, like I was working in an inner city, like I love the kids to death. But I think it really opened my eyes to a sense of like I want to work with kids and I want to work with them in some kind of capacity, but
Yeah.
teaching was not that thing, right?
And that's okay.
And I
Yes.
wanted to find a way to kind of incorporate my two loves, right? I love
Mhm.
sports. Sports are like my life and just finding a way to still be able to give back to my community and still be able to be a positive influence and positive role model, but also incorporate athletics.
Right.
So that's where I went back to school and got my master's
Mhm.
in sport administration and landed in community relations and was doing in-school programming with FC Cincinnati, which is a major league soccer team here
Yeah.
locally. And it's just crazy, but I definitely do agree with you. Working in an after-school program will open your eyes and give you a true insight on what a teacher actually does.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but when we had our program, we had our like enrichment hour and then our fun hour, and you
Yeah.
had to
Yeah.
create lesson plans and make sure you're attending to every student. And it's
Mhm.
definitely eye opening. So definitely agree with Tyler there.
It
Like,
is. It's
please, like do an after school program. It's rewarding, and you learn a lot.
You do. I tell people they ask, what made you start teaching? Like, get in the after school program. Like, get your face, your foot in that door, and because you will have the best days and then you will have the worst days, but
Hmm.
it will pretty much strengthen you and let you know, is this what I can see myself doing 4 hours versus 8 hours, like every single day? Like, can I keep up with this from morning all the way through afternoon versus doing it from like 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock or 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock every day? So I
I
was
I
definitely
give educators props. Like, I think they're underpaid, underappreciated, and they deserve so much more than what they have. And
yeah,
it's just mind blowing to me that we're still in this predicament where teachers are still being underpaid and we
yeah,
expect so much out of them. Like, it is more than just working whatever your school hours are. The countless of hours you put in outside of
yeah.
that. And
Literally, I am literally in the classroom right now on a Sunday after church, literally. But
because you got to get things done. Like, that's the thing, is
yeah,
education is so vital, and you're not only teaching children, but you're teaching our future, and that's just super important. And
it
I
is.
will always, always vouch for educators because they are so valued and so important in my eyes, that they have to have someone who's vouching for them that's not in the system, I feel like.
Absolutely. And then to, like you say, we're still in this predicament where teachers are overworked and underpaid. So a lot of times, I have to remind myself when I get in that mind frame of, I don't get paid enough for this, or I'm doing too much of this. I have to remind myself I'm leading 40 plus kids, that are coming behind me. And I don't want them to leave my classroom or leave saying, Mr. Tyler did not care about my education. He did not have enough passion to like reach out for me or fight for me and things of that nature. So my passion, like I said from the beginning, my passion reminds
Hmm.
me, it ignites me all the time. The days I want to get up and go back to sleep, the mornings I'm driving to work and one eye's closed, one eye's open, is like, I got to get to my kids. I got to get to them. So passion is definitely that factor there.
What's crazy though is almost every single teacher feels that way. It's
Yeah.
like they're not doing the job for the money or anything like that. They're genuinely doing it for the kids. And I think
Yeah.
that's the most important thing. And it
Yeah.
takes very special people to do that kind of work. So I applaud you.
It
And
is. And
it's,
a lot
you're
of
making
people,
a difference, especially being a Black African American male in a classroom at a young age. A lot of kids don't see that role model. So you're
yeah,
breaking barriers and you're setting an example, which is truly inspiring. So
it
I'm proud of
is.
you.
Thank you. And a lot of people think that, teaching is just ABC, one, two, three, but it goes so much
Mm-mm.
deeper. Like even when it's not curriculum based, we're having to parent these kids. We're having to
Mm-hmm.
teach them life skills. Like
Yep.
we're having to do all of it. We're having to feed these kids sometimes, like it so much goes under the umbrella of being a teacher. Like it's so much bigger than the books.
I
So much.
swear. And the drama for like these kids, like
Yeah.
it's insane.
It is. It's
You'll
definitely insane.
you'll hear
Now,
like
I do sometimes I like getting into the drama. Like, what y'all got going on? Come talk
what
to me about that.
what's the tea? What's the
What's the
tea?
tea? What's the tea? Yeah.
Tea time with Ty. That's what it
Please,
should be.
I'm gonna add that to my classroom. Like the last 5 minutes, let's have tea time. Like, what's going on in y'all personal life that me and the other teachers can talk about? Like, what y'all got going on?
That is hilarious. No, I think it's truly amazing. And we hit the education part. So now I want to know more about the worship leader aspect.
Yeah.
So, what made you decide to go that route? And how did that all come about for you?
Well, like I said, I was brought up in church. At one point, I was the church baby. And basically, for nobody who knows what that is, that's the baby that gets passed around from everybody. You're the church baby. But I've always been in church. I've always had a connection to church. Always wanted to serve church. Always loved church. But most importantly, loving God, and having
Hmm.
that relationship with Him. I started out with as a youth leader, and I went from a youth leader to a musician. I started playing drums for my church. I think like it's in 2013. Started playing drums for my church, and of course, that's another level of ministry to serving. But I say that worship leading chose me. I did not choose worship leading. My pastor, he gave me that release and was like, it's time for you to get off from behind the drum cage, because what you have to say on the platform is more important than you having sticks in your hand. Shout out to my pastor, by the way. Love you to life. But he released me, to do worship leading. And
Hmm.
I'll say the last 2 to 3 years that I've been doing it, I've experienced another side of God that's held me accountable. It's held me responsible, and it's helped me to be creditable, just as Tyler as a character. And that even goes towards teaching as well. Teaching and worship leading, I say, goes hand in hand, because your
Hmm.
character matters in all of that. How people see you, people say, well, I don't care how others see me, or I don't care what they say. But in this business, you got to care, because
Yeah,
that's where the networking comes in. That's how people see you beyond teaching. They see you beyond, the worship leading. So, yeah, I've been doing worship leading for about 3 years now. I've always been a worshiper my whole life, but worship leading has definitely, set the bar for me in my relationship with God, and then also wanting to serve in my church. So,
that's truly amazing, honestly. And I think the one thing that truly stands out to me is you mentioned your character,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it goes a long way.
it
And
does.
when you put your best foot forward every single day, it it's kind of like there's two sides. Like, yes, like you shouldn't care what people think of you or what they say about you, because you can't control those things,
Right,
right?
right.
But what you can do is you can control what effort you're putting out and what
Yeah,
kind of person you're being. And I tell people all the time is I'm going to give 110% regardless of what I'm doing, because I'm not going to give someone an opportunity to talk bad about me, right?
right,
And
right,
that's how you set yourself up. That's how you set yourself
right.
up for success, because if you're giving 110%, you're trying every single day and putting your best effort, you're not giving people an opportunity to speak bad about you behind closed doors.
Yep.
And you're setting an example of like, this is my work ethic, this is who I am, and this is what you're going to get out of me every single day.
Right. And that's something I made a Facebook post, I think, like 2 years ago, because that was something that at the time
Hmm.
God was dealing with me about, was my character behind the scene. So people see you on the platform, they see you leading worship. People
Yep.
see you on TikTok, they see you, getting all these likes, comments, and shares. But behind the scene, what is your character really like when nobody's watching? Like, what do you look like when you are by yourself?
Hmm.
Because eventually that you is going to start showing up in every area of your life. And even before I transitioned into like teaching, like full time as a official teacher, like I said, I started in the Boys and Girls Club, which here in the Upstate now is called Kids Club. But
Hmm.
I had my boss, her name was Miss Tamika. She always told me, she said, you have the magic, but you got to have the management that matches that. And when she said that, I was upset with her at first. I really was. 'Cause I was like, what you mean? I got all of that. But I started noticing it started showing up in my work. So the kids seen me, they seen,
Hmm.
oh, you're doing a good job, all of this. But what she said kept ringing in my ear. You have the magic, but your management is horrible. And she was referring to my character. Like, how are you showing up on time? Are you doing right by people? Are you turning things in on time? Are
Right.
you being
Yep.
who you want people to see you being? Or are you just putting on that mask until you get finished, and it's like, now I'm stuck with the real you. So that is something that has stuck with me, and it still sticks with me to this day. And I still hear her saying it in my head every time. Like, I want to slack off. Every time I want to be like, you know what, I'm just gonna be lazy. I have to remember, I can't just have the magic. I have to have the management of that magic as well. And that all goes to character. What is it like behind the scene? So,
Man, you're on here dropping nuggets.
thanks. Listen, I this up here, once it starts turning, it don't stop. It
Oh,
don't.
I don't blame you, because I'm the same way, but it's just interesting to have that approach, right? I've never
Yeah,
heard of it that way.
yeah,
Because my mentor always told me, he was like, I don't care what job you're doing. I don't care if you're the damn janitor. Like,
yeah.
you will be the best janitor there is, because you're not
Right.
going to give anyone a reason to talk bad about you. And it's crazy because I have conversations with him all the time, and he's like, we don't quit things. Like,
Mhm.
with what we start, we finish,
We
right?
have
Regardless,
to.
regardless if you're enjoying it or not, like, you're not going to let people talk about you in that light, right? You're not going to
Yeah,
be seen as a quitter. You'll finish, you'll see it through, and then once it's done, it's done. You don't have to do
it's
it again,
it's
right?
done. Yeah.
So it's just very, and his words always stick with me. And it's just one of those things where he has a kind of a rule where, like, if I got a job or something, he's like, you got to do it for at least a year,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
you won't truly know if you like it or not in 2 months or 2 weeks or whatever it may be. Like, give it some time. Like, things change over time.
Yeah,
If you get there for a year and you're still feeling the way you're feeling, then start looking and do something different. So,
absolutely.
because I feel like sometimes like people just make impulse decisions where it's just like, oh, I don't like this, I'm done.
And that it hurts. It hurts in the long run because you'll get something different and
Hmm.
you'll realize what you had was really not that bad. You just did not apply enough effort, enough passion for that. So you'll get somewhere different and be like, oh man, like I should have stayed where I was and gave it a shot, gave it an opportunity. So I definitely agree.
Right. I tell people all the time, control what you can control.
Hmm.
Right. We cannot control the uncontrollables. Like, things are going to happen. You just got to take the punches and roll with them. It's
Yeah,
just, it's life.
it's
You're
life.
gonna you're gonna get knocked down, and it's just how do you get back up and keep fighting? Because
And
this is.
that's something my pastor says all the time. He's like, "This is not your first time going through something,"
Hmm.
and he'll whisper in like, "And it will not be your last time." Like you're going to consistently go through things, but it goes back to character. Like, what are you learning as you go through these things? Like, what are you developing about
Yep.
yourself as you go through these things? Because if not, it's going to show up again and again and again, and you're going to fail it again and again and again. Like it's is life.
Hey, the lessons.
Hmm.
Everything is a lesson, whether you're
Everything.
successful or whether you're not. You're gonna have a lesson within that. So it's how
Mhm.
you take it and run with it. I
Absolutely.
telling you, you're preaching
Absolutely.
to the choir. It is Sunday.
It is Sunday, right.
So I do have one question before we get into like the next segment here.
Okay.
We mentioned in your intro that you're a content creator.
Yes.
So if people aren't familiar with Ty, Ty does do, I feel like, TikTok on the side. Like, it's like a
Yes.
side hustle. But like, what made you decide to start uploading videos and take TikTok and run with it? Like, what was the spark? Like, where did that come from?
So I've always been told that I've had a very unique way of dealing with students or encountering students. Does not matter what kid comes my way, they're going to leave knowing that's Mr. Tyler's. Like that's his stamp, that's his brand.
Hmm.
Recording on TikTok, literally, I recorded a video one day and posted it and had no idea what happened after that. And it's funny because I hated TikTok when it first came out. I was not a fan. I was like, I'm not downloading that app. And what's the point? Like,
Oh, you were
I
one of them people.
like, I was one of those people. And I downloaded the app and I posted a video of me interacting with my kids. And it went viral. And I woke up the next morning and was like, what in the world? Like, what is this? Like, what just happened? So I don't even have an honest answer or a legitimate answer to like how that even came
Hmm.
about. But I was like, people like this. So let's show them what a classroom with Mr. Tyler looks like. And that's where that went.
Hey, I don't blame you. Like, your video, I'm not gonna lie, your videos are hilarious to me
Yeah.
because I think it's like when you interact with the kids, they understand like you care. Like,
Yeah.
you can tell that like the kids know you care, but they
Yeah.
also know when you're serious. Where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, Ty's doing this. Let's not like, and
Yeah.
that's the thing is like you got to keep it real with the kids. And I don't like sugarcoating things with people. And I think that's just you're just genuine. And I had this conversation with my last guest on this podcast where it's like, as long as you're genuine and posting the things that you enjoy and the things that you want, that's all that really matters, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what anyone else thinks. And educators and you have like you said, like earlier in this podcast, is like you bring this energy that is kind of infectious
Yeah.
and it comes through in those videos because you can just hear the interactions and they're just so funny because you say some of the funniest stuff where I'm just like, where did this even come from?
Yeah, half of the things and the kids know they are empty threats. Like they the threats don't even make sense, but they know I'm not playing like what I'm saying. But I think the biggest thing for me, and it ties back into ignite your why. Why did you do this?
Hmm.
Is because when I was in school, I think one of the reasons I did not like school is because I did not have a teacher that I could relate to. I didn't
Hmm.
have somebody there that like understood me on my level.
Right.
So I think one of the things that really like burns within me every time I come to school. Is like, what can I do to get on their level, but at the same time elevate them as as I'm on your level. And that's just like relating to the kids. Like, I have no idea who half of these rap artists are, but I would get in my car and listen to them, and we would turn that into a lesson. And they go home remembering this. Like, this it's stuff like that, like interacting with the kids,
Hmm.
learning their lingo and applying it in the classroom, or taking something negative that all of them know and turning it into something positive to where they don't even think about the negative aspect of it because they learned something positive about it in the classroom. Like, it's things like that getting on their level that really it's fun. It is fun. I love what I do. It is fun.
You can tell. And I think the biggest thing right there is like relatability, right?
Yeah,
When you can relate to kids and understand them, it goes a long way.
it
And
does.
I really truly believe the biggest piece of all of that is just listening.
Hmm.
Most kids just want someone who is going to listen, someone who
Yeah,
cares and shows
yeah.
them that they have value and that
Mhm.
they matter. And it's just crazy because I said it before. It's like you are breaking barriers and showing
Yeah,
kids that look like you that it is possible,
it's
right?
possible. Yeah,
And it's very rare. Like, I can tell you right now, growing up, I do not think I had one black male teacher.
yeah,
Like, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And when you're let me ask you this. I don't know what your school district is like, but is it a, like a lower income area kind of school?
Yes.
Or yeah. So especially in like low income areas, underserved communities, those are the kids that truly look for role models, right?
They do.
Because you don't
Yeah.
know what these kids go through at home. And I think that's the biggest thing is sometimes like this could be their escape, their safe place, their happy
Mhm.
place. So let's make these 7 or 8 hours that they're here the best time that they have, right?
And
Because
that's
yeah, you
something that I I pride myself on, and I push every single day
Mhm.
because it's not always, like I said, it's not always about the books. You can have the smartest kid in the room, but because they don't feel supported, because they don't feel loved, because they have
Mhm.
nobody that listens to them, it's not going to show in their grades. But when you give them that support, when you give them that love, that tough love, when you give them that support, when you give them that discipline, it's like, okay, I see I
Right.
have somebody that legitimately cares about my future. So let me apply that to not just my grades, not just my learning, but to my character as well, because I have somebody that's gonna have my back, you know. And that's one of the things that I love about my school that I work at is they let you know from the jump, like, you're not just here to teach. And if you're here to just teach and get a check, you're not gonna last no longer than 2 weeks because my principal Kendra, she says often, she says, when kids show up, they're going to bring all of themselves, the good,
That
the
the
bad,
bad
the
and
ugly.
ugly.
They're bringing all of themselves. And you, as a leader, you, as a teacher, how are you going to manage that? How are you going to manage that? And that's pretty much another part of my why. Like, there's so much that ignites
There's so many
my
intricacies that go into
yeah,
teaching and being and working with the youth, honestly,
yeah,
because that's why I did it when I was in college. Is I grew up in the school district. I worked in the school district I grew up in, and I had that relatability aspect. I may not look like a lot of the kids. I may not have the same experiences, but
yeah,
I've been exposed to them to where I can relate in some aspect and I
right,
can empathize with you and see like I hear you, I see you, and like the value that they have. And I think that's the thing is they just need the belief, right? And
yeah,
people are going to be like, Austin, you haven't said what you always said. People listen to this, but I'm going to say it because I say it every
yeah,
episode when we talk about kids and working with the youth. It's just, I firmly believe that every kid has a promising future, right?
every kid.
I do not like when people say our kids are at risk
No,
because just because of their living circumstances or just
mhm,
because of where they come from does not mean they don't have a promising future.
right,
I always think of it as like, what do we as adults have to do to give them the resources they need to be successful? Because they deserve every opportunity that any other kid in this country can get, right? So
yeah,
what are we doing to make that difference? That's really what it comes down to, is
It,
if you can recognize that there's a problem and you can recognize that these kids are at risk according to you, what are you doing to change it?
right.
Sorry, I'm getting defensive,
No,
but I'm
and
passionate about it.
you're right, and that trust me, I get it. You're right, and that's another way I look at it is somebody gave me a chance, so why not
Hmm.
take my what someone gave me and give it to somebody else? Because one thing I absolutely despise is like you said, people say, "Oh, this generation, they're at risk, or they're low risk, or we ain't no telling, what they're gonna turn into." It's like, no, we're not thinking about it from that aspect. Okay. That's not, no. What they choose to do with their future depends upon the support and the love and the tools that they have from the community that they have around them. So if the community is not building
Yes.
them and they choose not to go anywhere, it's because the community did not use the proper tools. They did not use the proper empowerment, the proper instruction, to grow and gravitate towards that child. So yes, every kid
Yes.
there's an opportunity.
Yes. Yes, you're preaching to the choir right now, and it's just like I'm glad someone else like sees it that way, because it's
Yeah,
so frustrating to me, because it's, why are you counting these kids out so early?
yeah,
Like, they have their whole lives ahead of them. But if we don't act on it, yes, those things can happen. Those
yeah,
things can be a possibility. But why does everything have to be so negative?
right,
Like, let's flip the script. Let's change the future. Let's inspire these kids to be whatever they want to be, regardless
right,
of who they are, where they come from, or anything of that nature. Like,
right.
they
Because
are important. Like,
it is, and like it just shows them like anything is possible. And I tell
mhm.
you all the time, I'm like, dude, literally a black male teacher is leading a class right now. Leading a class right now. Kids don't see that. It's stuff like that that's like, if he can do that, then what can I do that
Right.
people that society told me was impossible,
Hmm.
or society, or even my family, or even a teacher said that you'll never be able to do that? Is that, can I really not do it, or is the support and the tools not there for me to not achieve that? Like that's how I think about it.
Right, and you're not wrong. Like, we could probably talk about this for hours,
Yeah.
honestly. But moving forward, I feel like people understand how we feel about that topic.
Yeah.
So it makes me want to move into this next segment here. It's honestly one of my favorite segments of this entire podcast. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a huge mental health advocate.
Yeah.
I will always find an opportunity to talk about it and speak on it and bring awareness to it. So my question for you, Ty, is how have you been taking care of yourself mentally?
Mentally, how have I been taking care of myself? My pastor has always taught me prayer before anything, before anything. And that is something I take in school, something I take out of school. I take it home, I take it in the store. Even when like I'm meditating, I
Hmm.
start it off with prayer, because I never want to make an impulse decision, or I never want to make a decision and not incorporate God in it. So prayer is the first thing. Secondly, I've been learning how to manage my time, and that in itself has been stress relieving. And it's funny because you give people your time and they waste it, or you give yourself time to waste time,
Man.
and it's like I can't get that back. But waking up early in the mornings and then realizing like all of these hours are really in the day, and I've been missing all of this wasting time. So prioritizing my time is definitely another one. And even like just making the necessary sacrifices so that I can enjoy rest.
Hmm.
Like I'm in school on a Sunday after church, but I'm setting up 2 weeks in advance so that when that time gets here, I'm not stressing about like, oh, I didn't get this prepared, or oh, I don't have this ready. And not even just school, like just life in general. Like what bills need to be paid? How am I going to budget my paycheck this week? Or what needs need to be taken care of? Like who I need to reach out to? Who do I need to talk to? Like things of that nature. Just being more disciplinary towards myself has really changed on my mental. And I think that helps me out a lot, especially for someone that used to procrastinate all the time. Procrastinating did not help my case because you just tons of crap on tons of crap on
Yeah.
tons of crap, and then eventually the oil.
Procrastinating's so easy to do though. It is
Yeah,
so easy to do, especially when you are just busy, I guess you should
yeah,
say. And I think time management is just a skill that everyone needs to learn. I'm
yeah,
not going to say I'm the best at it,
yeah,
but it's something that everyone can improve on, right? And
yeah,
I think I do a pretty decent job at it, but sometimes, like I tell people, I'm an avoider, right? My therapist has told me that. Like, she's like, you are an avoider. So I
yeah,
keep myself busy to avoid like getting in my thoughts or getting in my head where it's just I do something dang near I should I dang near every day, right? And it's just I should take a step back and do nothing, right?
yeah.
And it's hard, especially when you, you're just so used to being go 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 go.
Mm, that's absolutely true. Especially taking on unnecessary responsibilities that you technically don't really need, but you take it on because, like you said, you want to keep yourself
Yep.
busy from the thing that you know you should be doing, but you choose not to do it. So we have a connection here. Absolutely.
Yeah, literally like this morning I usually use Sundays as my like do nothing day.
Mhm.
Because I used to like go to church in the morning, but like later I've just been watching it online just because my energy is just so drained from the week where I'm
Yeah,
just exhausted.
yeah,
Like the last 2 weeks, I've literally had something to do Monday through Saturday.
yeah.
So if I can stay home and be in the comfort of my home and watch church online, I'm gonna do that. Because it's just a time where it's like I don't have the energy to get out of bed, to get dressed, to get in the car and drive like 20 minutes. I know I'm making excuses right now, but
You
that's just
and
the way.
I would say I want to challenge you to pick a Sunday between
I know.
now and the end of October, and I'm gonna check in with you. Just pick one Sunday, and just sacrifice and just go. Just go.
Well, the thing was is I was actually gonna go this morning.
See,
Because they have a 9 and 11 o'clock service,
yeah,
and I was definitely gonna go, and then I woke up and saw that I was late to this soccer camp, so I was like, "Peace."
yeah. That is
It just
I'll do
it
it.
happens. I feel like once, like, soccer season's, like, over for me,
Yeah,
it will be a lot easier for me to start, like, getting back and going.
yeah.
So
Absolutely. Like I said, you gradually go into because you don't want to just run straight into it because then you're gonna really be tired. Just gradually make yourself. Well, you could do like every other Sunday. This Sunday
right.
I get in person. Next Sunday I'm gonna stay home and watch it.
And I think that's the thing though, is just the last like month and a half of my life has been so crazy and hectic.
Yeah.
Just being a soccer coach and serving as an interim athletic director for a high
Mm.
school, you can imagine just the amount of work that goes with that, where it's
Okay. So how have you been taking care of your mental then?
who's the interviewer here?
Because you're
No,
so honest. I gotta ask.
I go to therapy every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Every Friday, every other Friday, I go. And my therapist, I love her to death, and she and I talk about the same thing: is just taking time for myself
Yeah.
because sometimes it's easy to live. Have you seen those balls that like expand and like
Mm-hmm.
come back in? Yeah.
Yes.
So I live out here, right?
Okay.
Majority of the time, that is where I live. And she's like, sometimes you just have to like hone in and live here. So what I try to do, at least for like 5 minutes a day ish, is she kind of taught me like this elevator, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm always living up here, right? And I
Yeah.
never want to live down here where like you should. So it's like taking the elevator and taking it down and sinking in and
Yeah.
feeling what I need to feel, right? Because it's okay to feel.
It's
And
okay to feel. Please say
and
that one more time. One
it
more
is
time.
o it is okay to feel, and
Yes.
she tells me all the time, our emotions are our friends, not our enemies. So, it's something I'm working on, definitely something that has taken a long time, and I think it's just from growing up and being an athlete. I was just very, very hard on myself, and I just wanted to be the best, and I never wanted people to see me in a bad light. That it's just kind of, I didn't
Yeah.
talk about my emotions. I was just
Yeah.
like, on to the next thing. And it's just brushing things under the rug. And it's not the healthiest coping mechanism. I understand and recognize that. I think that's the thing, is now just trying to retrain my brain to think differently. That's the hardest part.
And it is, because it's easy for us to verbally be talking about this now, but if we don't practice what we are preaching, everyone
Hmm.
else is going to get help from this. And then after the podcast goes off, we're like, what the hell do I do now? Like, what do I do? Like,
Hmm.
my mind is completely gone. So,
Like, I'm
absolutely.
looking forward to therapy this Friday. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you, because it's been so long. I haven't gone in 3 weeks because our schedules got mixed up, where she was like, she had something come up, so then we like had to reschedule, and I was just like, I don't want to come 2 weeks in a row. Like,
Yeah.
that's just, I don't see the purpose. Not for me. I don't see the purpose for me to
Okay.
go every week. Right. I'm not to that point where I need it weekly. Um, I think biweekly works great for me. I used to go every week. I feel like I graduated up to every 2 weeks. So it's a process, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people think like you go to therapy just because like you're messed up. And that's not the case. Like sometimes like I just go in there and I vent about things that are just going on
Yeah.
currently. And
Yeah.
it's nice to talk to someone who is judgmental free and doesn't
Right.
know anything that,
Yeah.
like doesn't know anyone, and just it's nice. It's a nice little
Is
comfort.
I always say you always have to have people in your life that do not know anything about you, that because those people can sometimes help you because they're not judgmental,
Mhm.
and they don't know history with you, so they're not going to be your yes man. They're going to tell you like it
How it
is.
is. Yeah.
It,
And it's crazy because, like, now that you're saying this, I was thinking, like, I've had this conversation with another person on my podcast where it's like our friends, we expect them to like support us like crazy. But when they're along the journey with you, their
mhm.
support's different. It might
Yeah,
not be like how a stranger would be like sharing your stuff and things of that nature.
yeah,
Like they support differently. And it really opened my eyes that day when he said that, because I was like, dang,
yeah.
never thought of it that way.
And
Like,
it's because it's we oftentimes we get familiar with people,
mhm.
so everything is from a place of familiarity, and familiarity is not always good. Familiarity can keep us bound. It can keep us hostage to certain situations that we should be well past. So that is definitely, whoever said that, shine to them, because
Change is
absolutely,
scary though. Change
yeah,
is scary.
it
And I think
is.
that's another thing for me. It's like I'm afraid of change, where it's just I love like the comfortability of things. So when
Yes.
things change drastically, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
What do we do
Absolutely,
now?
absolutely, and I that's where I am in my life right now. Um, Change. I know that a great change is about to happen, and I don't. Sometimes I don't want to go there. I don't even want to think about it because it's like, all right, here we go again. Something else is going to be required, or I got to go through another character
Mhm.
development, or I got to go through something totally different than what I'm used to. And in our comfort zones, we know how everything is going to play out. We know from the top to the bottom.
Mhm.
But when it's time for change, when God causes for change, when life causes for change, when your business, your job, whatever that you know that you're connected to, when it calls for change, it's like, I don't want to do that because I don't fully know 100% what's ahead,
Yeah,
and
the
I'm
fear of the unknown.
like, I'm good right here. Like I know how to. I can control this, and that's how I think about it. I can control my comfort, but when it's time for change, I can't control that. So I have no idea what's about to happen.
Hey, like I said earlier, you can control what you can control. We
Yep.
can't control the uncontrollables.
Nope.
It's funny how things come full circle on this podcast. Like,
They do. Everything comes full circle.
no, man, I just really wanted to say thank you for you taking the time out of your schedule to hop on and just chop it up. It's been really good talking to you and getting to know you. I feel like I've known you forever, but this is really the first conversation we've
Right.
had face to face.
Right.
So I do appreciate you taking the time out of your day. if anyone wants to continue having a conversation with you about anything that we've talked about today, what would be the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Of course, through TikTok and Instagram. My at name is at I am Tyler Dillard. That's really the best way to contact me. You can also send me an email, but if it doesn't have my principal's name attached to it, I'm probably not going to read it. So Instagram and TikTok are the best ways to reach out, have a conversation, or just say, hey, it's up to you.
Hey, I don't blame you. I hate emails. I get them all the time. So it's very frustrating. So I definitely understand that. Thank you again for taking the time out of your day. I truly do appreciate it. I'm going to put all of Tyler's information in the description below, guys. Thank you all for listening in. If you all happen to reach out to Ty, please make sure you just notate on how you found him. It will be greatly appreciated.
Nice.
Again, thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you give us a follow on all social media platforms. It's at Ignyte Your Y. That's INGYTE, not with an I. We're on every single platform, so you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, you name it, we're there. So make sure you give us a follow. Again, thank you all for tuning in. And always remember, find your purpose, ignite your why, and I'll holler at you later. Peace.